What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. We're going to be talking about a few different horror topics in this video here today, and that's all I'll say because there's a lot I want to get through. Starting off here with Final Destination Bloodlines. The Final Destination 6 Bloodlines trailer got the horror community buzzing this past Tuesday, and I just wanted to double down on a few things. For one, Bloodworth's remark about embracing death will let it skip you by is in fact a callback to someone who did it earlier in the franchise. So if you went down that rabbit hole like I tried to instruct you to, you are going down the right path and you need to stay on that path. Whether this someone appears or not is not something I know, but it does open up the door for an interesting sequel angle. Another thing is that Bloodworth's origins being explored the way Bloody Disgusting reported that it will be does tie into Stephanie and her family situation with death. Stephanie's grandma has this death journal that's highlighting some of the accidents throughout the series, but I will tease that this grandma didn't do all of this alone. In terms of surviving and studying how to beat death, someone has helped her with that journal. Someone helped her build that cabin that she's clearly living in, and she's very much like the Laurie Strode of Halloween 2018 sort of character, in the sense that notice she is separate from the rest of the family. That's because they do not fuck with her like that, and you'll see why and learn about her and how she has kind of just been I would say in their mind, a cancer. But I'll leave you guys with this question. Do you really think that Stephanie's grandma was the OG premonition? Or will Final Destination 7 and onward reveal even more that explains why these premonitions are even a thing? Let me know all that down below. I will also say maybe you might learn a new nickname or two as pertains to William Bloodworth. But that's all I will say about that. So let's talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer. Jonah King teased the return of The Fisherman, Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr., or even the debut of a fisherwoman for the upcoming I Know What You Did Last Summer Legacy sequel during a South by Southwest interview with Collider. Now I'm going to predict that we get both. You get two killers, one fisherman, one fisherwoman, which I understand sounds, yes, Scream-like, but remember this sequel is including a Southport legend about, or at least I should say, is expected, because it's not confirmed. They're expected to be including a Southport legend about what Julie and her friends did to Ben Willis. So the costume becoming popular in Southport isn't that unbelievable, and others can wear it even if they aren't Ben Willis. In fact, there was a scene in the original with Helen where she's obviously observing, making sure that the coast is clear, that the fisherman isn't around, and other people were wearing that costume, so it made it a bit difficult to know who's the killer and who isn't. Now, if someone, or if the story of Ben has become a legend, that would only heighten the popularity of this costume, I would imagine. Now, Jonah also made mentions of the film being comedic, which is alarming to some, but if you loved I Still Know, I would have to just ask you this question: what's the problem? What about this is concerning? I say that as someone who couldn't even stand the humor in that sequel, but Jennifer Caton Robinson's Do Revenge is a solid piece of work with comedy sprinkled throughout, so I do not believe comedy is going to be overriding the horror here. It's just going to be blended into it as expected given who the creative team is. I just don't think that the comedy is going to be handled poorly. But do you guys think the comedy will be handled poorly? Or do you think that because of what happened with I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, even though you love that movie, you didn't love the comedy aspects of it, you think that the comedy should be left out altogether? Let me know why or why not down in the comment section below. I just don't get the big deal over the comedy. Because here's the thing. Even if it has that comedy that overrides the horror, which hopefully it doesn't, at the end of the day, this can't be any worse than that third movie. And some people, me included in these group of people, would argue that that sequel isn't that good either. I just don't see us getting a bad film here. I see us getting something that is going to be considered the second best entry in the franchise next to that first movie. Those sequels that came, while the second one obviously is the better of the two, they're not that good. That's really all I can say about that. I think this third, I'll call this the legitimate third film, will end up being the second best entry in the franchise, and the comedy will be received a bit better as opposed to what they did with I Still Know. But let's talk about Danielle Harris and Scout Compton real quick, because they have an upcoming horror thriller titled Last Chance Motel, which I believe they wrapped in December of last year. Danielle, I know, posted a photo on set a while back. Fangoria reported this update on the project yesterday, saying that the film is following a newlywed couple whose dream wedding spirals into a bloody nightmare when they uncover that their secluded venue, a desolate motel deep in the Nevada desert, is run by a relentless, bloodthirsty family with dark secrets, revealing that one bride's future may not be all that it was promised to be. There was also reports that Heather Langenkamp is in this cast too. I'm just intrigued to see this because this does sound like it's taking a bit of inspiration from Ready or Not, but it also sounds like a few projects I recall watching in the 2000s whose titles I just can't remember right now. I'm also currently hoping that Scout is considered for that Cujo remake, and I wish she had a bigger spotlight along with Danielle as it pertains to the horror community right now. I wish Scout definitely blew up because I think she did a tremendous job in Halloween 2 despite my overall opinion on that film. I hope, wish, and pray that this project is a hit for them, and this will definitely open up doors for them to be in more things or be in more mainstream horror projects. Sounds like a passion project for them for the comments I've read, but you guys let me know, are you looking forward to that? Because I'm sure there's plenty of Danielle Harris and Scout Compton fans out there who would like to see them more involved with the horror community in a mainstream capacity. Now, let's talk about Scooby Doo really quick. So we have a live-action Scooby Doo series coming to Netflix. Variety is reporting that this will be an 8-episode series as well, but it says in this modern reimagining, old friends Shaggy and Daphne team up at summer camp with scientific townie Velma and the strange but handsome Fred to solve the mystery of a lonely lost Great Dane puppy who may have witnessed a supernatural murder. Now, this sounds like a origin story, if you will. But the reason I'm talking about this is because I'm hoping that this is a bit more darker in tone, maybe similar to that Sabrina show that was on Netflix, but I'm crossing my fingers that this is darker in tone, a little bit more scarier, and maybe it has a bit more gore, because I think there has been chatter about doing something a bit R-rated with Scooby-Doo. Maybe this will be it, or at least some doses, some teases of potential for us to get that in the future. I just want something darker, and I know a few of you out there who watch me, who also leave comments, love those live action films from the 2000s, seem to have played a big part in most of our childhoods, those of you who watch me anyway, and when you leave comments, I've taken note of that. So hopefully we can get cameos from that original cast, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Matthew Lillard, everybody else, Freddie Prinze Jr., etc. But I won't hold my breath for that. I just hope that this live action series is a bit darker in tone and that it's something that will make me nostalgic for the old school show, because I did love watching Scooby-Doo Where Are You growing up, and A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, and so many other Scooby-Doo projects. Now, let's talk about Happy Death Day 3. Christopher Landon revealed that Happy Death Day 3 could have been a 3-part miniseries at one point. He revealed this during an interview with Games Radar. He said, "We had a lot of fits and spurts in terms of maybe we'll do it. At one point, they talked about it becoming a 3-part event thing for Peacock, which was kind of weird. I was like, all right, whatever it takes. But then it went away, and that was the last we ever heard of it, which was years ago." Look, that doesn't sound like it would have been the worst thing. It sounds like it would have been a great way to wrap it all up in a 3-part event. Obviously, which I think could have been a hit for Peacock, because I think the Happy Death Day duology of films have a massive fan base, at least enough for it to be popular on a streaming service, I would argue. But I do think that at some point we will revisit the character of Tree. This project has never been officially greenlit, nor was it officially canceled. It just has sat in limbo ever since that sequel and continues to sit in limbo. I think that at some point they will revisit it, but the thing is, it's not a priority right now because of the fact that that sequel unfortunately underperformed compared to that first film. Why they actually dropped it around Valentine's Day, didn't they do that? That is a bit weird, because the first one did manage to be more successful dropping it around Halloween, but you guys decided to drop this one around Valentine's Day, which was a bit of an odd choice. I think they have plans to revisit it down the road, but because it wasn't as profitable, Tree is on the back burner for now. We'll get Happy Death Day to Tree, whatever it ends up being titled, sooner rather than later, and I think if it doesn't cross over into Freaky, they'll use it to set up a crossover into Freaky and use it as an excuse to revisit the Freaky universe too. Now, let's talk about Spiral, or I should also say Saw 11 as well. Spiral 2 and Saw 11, I'll say. Viewer Anon shared a couple days back that Saw 11 would have been about the criminal justice system. What was interesting about that is that Max Minghella recently shared Billy the Puppet's LinkedIn profile on his IG story. Now, Max Minghella has not been involved with the Saw franchise since Spiral. If you recall, he, of course, was the killer, played William, I think the killer's name was, who wanted to clean up the corruption of the police system. Since his father had died when he was a kid, he actually got to witness that, unfortunately, a tragic thing, which inspired him to become a Jigsaw copycat in his adult years. Now, some people would argue that Saw has already been exploring the criminal justice system, so this wouldn't be nothing new. Well, there's a few things I want to point out. The criminal justice system isn't just law enforcement. If I'm correct, because I haven't really looked up all of this stuff just as of late. But when I was growing up, the criminal justice system wasn't just law enforcement. Law enforcement was a part of that, but then you also had the courts and you had the corrections. I don't feel as though, I've been revisiting the films and maybe I'm neglecting something in my recent rewatches, they don't put too much focus on the courts and the corrections the way they do law enforcement. So I feel as though Saw 11 would have tackled the courts and the corrections aspect a bit more, because they've been nailing it when it comes to police brutality and just police in general and law enforcement. I think you could have seen them tackling something in a jail, something in the courts, and going through that a bit more in depthly. And maybe, just maybe, this could have tied into how William's father ended up in the position he was in, where William unfortunately watched his father get shot. And then maybe they were going to use Saw 11 to set up Spiral 2, where William returns to take over the mantle. They close the book on John Kramer for good. And I think that's probably what could have been coming our way in Saw 11. That still could be coming our way. I just thought it was interesting for him to post that LinkedIn profile of Billy the Puppet on his story when he hasn't been involved in the franchise since Spiral, almost indicating that maybe he's going to be taking over the mantle for John Kramer in a Spiral 2 after they get done setting it up in Saw 11. But let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, of course, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications. You can never miss a video. In the description, I have links to all my social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there, of course. Let me know if there are any movies, news, or reviews you'd like me to cover in the future. And with all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.